Hello, sweet viewers. Annyeong. That means hi in Korean. I'm Christine with Kimbop TV, empowering you to live a happier and safer life, especially if you're a fellow domestic violence survivor. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's a time when we have the opportunity to shed light on this very important issue with our family and friends, and I want to help you to do that. I'll share 5 most commonly asked questions about DV that I've answered over the years. I hope they help you to gain a better insight into this topic, which could be unfamiliar for you. So let's get started. Question 1. What is domestic violence? The answer may not be what you expect. It's not just physical violence, and it's also not something that happens only between married people. There's a whole spectrum of abusive behaviors that falls into the category of domestic violence. It includes emotional, financial, psychological, sexual, and verbal. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior that is controlling and often forceful, and it can happen to anyone who is in a close relationship. Unfortunately, that means high school and college students too. One of the first books I read as a survivor was about teen dating violence. So much of what I read resonated with me as a 30-something-year-old. The behaviors of abusers don't change much over the years. If anything, I think they just intensify, especially if the abuser gets away with treating their partner so badly time and time again. Question 2. How common is domestic violence? Domestic violence affects millions of people across our country and many more people around the world. It doesn't matter how much money you make, what your ethnicity is, or where you live. It affects everybody. On average, about 20 people are physically abused by an intimate partner every minute here in the US. That means more than 10 million women and men are affected every year. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, and/or partner stalking with lasting impacts such as injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder, or sexually transmitted diseases. Up to 55% of Asian women in the US report experiencing intimate physical and/or sexual violence during their lifetime. Question 3. Why doesn't the victim just leave? Well, it's not that easy. A person doesn't just fall in love with the monster. In my example, my abuser started out as the most charming and the most charismatic person I've ever met. He lured me in, and when I committed wholeheartedly, that's when the abusive behaviors began. It didn't start with physical violence. In my case, emotional, psychological, and verbal abuse gradually escalated. They got me to constantly second-guess myself, grow fearful towards my abuser, and develop an uneasy sensation like walking on eggshells. Abusive partners tend to work hard to keep victims trapped. They isolate the victim from family and friends. They also use gaslighting, which is a form of emotional abuse that makes the victims feel like they are responsible for the abuse. You can also call that blame shifting. And many survivors, including myself at one time, want to believe in the abuser's constant promises to change. But in most cases, they will not and cannot unless they truly own up to their actions and seek professional help. Question 4. Did you see any warning signs? In retrospect, totally. Many abusers share common characteristics. Here are some subtle warning signs or red flags that I came across. He insisted on moving really quickly into a deeply committed relationship. He was very charming and seemed too good to be true. He got extremely controlling or jealous. He had a really bad temper and blew up in both private and public places. He did not take responsibility for his actions and constantly blamed others. He often disrespected me and talked negatively about my friends. His words didn't match his actions. And question 5. What are some examples of what domestic violence can look like? Take a good look at this wheel. Domestic violence is a pattern of power and control. My abuser did a lot of things written here again and again. It was a pattern that escalated over time. The emotional and psychological abuse can be just as extreme as physical violence. They're attacks to your heart, and though invisible, can take a really long time to heal. So, I hope these help you to better understand what it is that survivors actually survive. As a fellow survivor, I'll tell you that I didn't know a lot of these things I just talked about until I started seeing a therapist as well as a counselor with a nonprofit that supports domestic violence survivors. But once I processed all of the things that happened to me, I was finally able to begin my healing journey. As hard as it is, it's possible to leave an abusive relationship, and it's so good for your soul to rebuild, even if you may have to start again like I did from scratch. So, if you're in an unhealthy situation, please know that there's help available. Call a hotline or confide in a trusted friend or family member. And if you're a loved one trying to help, thank you for being that special person. Please be understanding of what he or she is going through. I know it may be frustrating at times because I know I frustrated my mom, my aunts, my cousins, and my friends as I stumbled around for a while trying to make sense of my life again. But your love is so important during this very delicate time. I'll leave you with this final fact. The domestic violence hotlines across the country receive a total of about 20,000 hotline calls every day, but that is only a small amount of those who are actually being abused and need help. Shame and stigma discourage so many people from telling anybody about what they are experiencing. So please help me to spread awareness and to normalize this conversation around domestic violence so that more people can feel safe in saying, "Me too." If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone you know, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you again in my next one. Bye.